Welcome, everyone. Today, I want you to sit down, take a deep breath, and listen carefully because this might be the most important English learning video you ever watch. I'm not saying this to sound dramatic or to make you stay. I am saying this because what I'm about to share with you is the exact truth about why so many people study English for years and years and still cannot speak fluently. Have you ever felt like this? You've learned grammar rules, memorized vocabulary lists, studied 10 tenses, done hundreds of exercises, but when it's time to actually speak, your brain freezes. You feel nervous. Your sentences come out broken, and you think, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I speak even after all this studying?" I know that pain because I lived it. For years, I believed the only way to become fluent in English was to master grammar. I believed I needed to know every rule, every tense, every little detail of English before I could speak. But the more grammar I studied, the more confused I became. I could pass written tests, but I could not hold even a simple conversation without panicking. And then one day I decided to stop. I completely stopped studying grammar. It was not easy. I felt scared. I thought my English would get worse. But what happened next changed my life forever. My English fluency improved in a way I never imagined. I was finally able to speak confidently and naturally, and that is exactly what I'm going to teach you today. This is not just another video with basic tips. This is a step-by-step journey where I will show you why grammar can actually destroy your confidence if you're not careful. 2. How I finally stopped overthinking and started speaking freely. 3. The exact daily routine I built at home without any teacher or classes. 4. How I trained my brain and mouth to think and speak in English naturally. 5. How I corrected my pronunciation without moving abroad. 6. How I killed the fear of speaking in front of others forever. And by the end of this video, you will know how to do the same. You will understand that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know all the grammar. And you definitely don't need expensive courses to become fluent. What you truly need is the right system, the right daily habits, and the courage to use the English you already know. I promise you something. If you watch this entire video carefully and follow the steps I give you, your English will never be the same again. This is not theory. These are things I have lived, tested, and proved. So, please stay with me until the end, because every single part of this journey is important. Skip even one part and you might miss the breakthrough you need. Now, let us begin this journey from the very beginning. Let me take you back to the time when I was struggling the most, so you can see how everything changed. Part 1. The truth about grammar. Why I was still not fluent. I still remember the day very clearly. I was sitting in a cafe waiting for a friend. The waiter came to my table and asked a very simple question. "What would you like to have?" That was it. Just 5 simple words. But do you know what happened? My heart started beating fast. My hands became sweaty and my mind went completely blank. I could not answer. I wanted to say just a coffee, please, but my brain started running through grammar rules. Should I say I will have or I would like? Which is correct? What tense should I use? And by the time I was ready to speak, the waiter had already walked away to serve another table. I felt humiliated. That day, I realized something very important. I knew so much grammar, yet I could not say a single fluent sentence when I needed it the most. And this was not the first time. It had been happening for years. Every tour, I had to speak. My brain became a grammar calculator. Instead of focusing on the person I was talking to, I was busy checking if my sentence structure was perfect. This constant overthinking killed my confidence. Does this sound familiar to you? If you're watching this, I'm sure you have felt the same. You know the rules. You can write well. But when it's time to speak, you freeze. And you think, maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe I need to study more grammar. But here is the truth. Studying more grammar will not solve this problem. In fact, it will make it worse. Why? Because grammar is designed for writing, not for speaking. When you write, you have time. You can think, erase, rewrite, and make corrections. But when you speak, you have just seconds to express yourself. There is no time to think about subject-verb agreement, prepositions, and perfect tenses. If you keep depending on grammar, your brain will always be one step behind, and your mouth will remain silent. I learned this the hard way. I wasted years of my life thinking grammar was the key to fluency. I studied every tense in English: present, past, future, perfect, continuous. I did hundreds of exercises. I memorized long lists of rules. And yes, my test scores improved. I could pass written SAT exams. But when I met someone in real life who asked me a question in English, I panicked. I was so afraid of making mistakes that I preferred to stay quiet. And here is another painful truth. Focusing too much on grammar makes you feel like you are never good enough. You always feel there's more to learn, more rules to master. You become a student forever. But fluency doesn't come from perfection. It comes from using the English you already know, even if it's not perfect. I will give you an example. Imagine a child learning to speak. Do they wait until they know all the grammar rules before they start talking? No, they just speak. They make mistakes. They mispronounce words, but they keep talking. And because they keep talking, they improve very quickly. But we adults do the opposite. We want everything to be correct. T before we speak. So we stay silent, and silence kills fluency. The day I understood this, everything changed. I realized that grammar was not my problem. My fear of making mistakes was. And that fear came from thinking grammar was more important than communication. But English is a language, not a school exam. Its purpose is to connect people, not to show off how perfect you are. In this part, I want you to understand this deeply. You do not need to master grammar to speak English fluently. Yes, grammar has its place. It is useful for writing, for advanced learning. But for speaking, the key is confidence and practice, not perfection. If you wait to become perfect, you will never speak. So here is your first lesson from my journey. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop waiting to learn every rule before you speak. Stop letting grammar control your brain every time you open your mouth. Instead, focus on expressing yourself with the words and sentences you already know. Even if it's broken English, even if you make mistakes, just speak. Because every time you speak, you get one step closer to fluency. That night, after I sat silently in the cafe, too scared to speak a simple sentence, I walked home feeling completely broken. I remember looking at my bookshelf filled with English grammar books, thick, colorful, filled with notes and bookmarks. They were supposed to make me fluent. I had trusted them. I had spent hours and months with them. But they didn't help me when I needed them the most. I stood there staring at these books and asked myself a difficult question: if grammar was the answer, why am I still afraid to speak? It was a painful realization. But I was finally honest with myself. I wasn't learning how to speak. I was learning how to stay stuck. I had become an expert at rules, but a beginner at conversation. I could explain the present perfect tense, but couldn't order coffee without fear. And then I made the boldest decision of my life. I packed all my grammar books and notebooks into a cardboard box and put them in the storage. Not because I was angry, but because I needed to start fresh. I needed to stop treating English like a school subject and start treating it like a living, breathing language. I needed to stop memorizing and start communicating. That moment changed everything. It was not just the end of studying grammar. It was the beginning of learning English in a completely different way. And that new way started with realization that fluency is not something you study. It's something you build, feel, and practice every single day. So what did I do instead? What replaced grammar in my life? Let me walk you through the real methods I started using, and step by step that finally made me fluent in English. I started speaking to myself daily, honestly, without fear. Yes, I know how strange it sounds, but I began talking to myself in my room, in the mirror, while walking, even before sleeping. I started by saying simple things like, I am brushing my teeth. I am going to cook now. This shirt is blue. I'm feeling tired. And slowly I added more. What did I do today? What do I want to achieve this week? Why am I afraid to speak? I didn't care about making mistakes. I just kept talking. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. When you speak to yourself, you remove the fear of judgment. There's no teacher to correct you, no friend to laugh at your mistakes. It's just you training your mouth to move, training your mind to build sentences naturally. In just a few weeks, my thinking started changing. I no longer had to translate every sentence from my native language to English. I could think directly in English. That was the first time I felt real progress. I started listening like a child, not studying like a student. Instead of learning rules, I started listening a lot, but not just passively. I listened like my life depended on it. I picked short videos, real conversations, interviews, daily talk, and I listened to how native speakers spoke. Not what they said, but how they said it. The tone, the rhythm, the pauses, the phrases they used. Then I copied them. I would pause the video, repeat the same sentence out loud, try to match their pronunciation, speed, and tone. Example, they said, I'm going to grab some coffee. You want anything? I paused and said, I'm going to grab some coffee. You want anything? Again and again until it became natural. This is called shadowing, and it became my most powerful practice tool. I wasn't learning grammar. I was learning the music of English, and music is what makes language come alive. I made mistakes proudly. I used to be ashamed of making mistakes. I would stay quiet just to avoid sounding stupid. But I realized something powerful. Fluent people are not people who never make mistakes. They're people who speak anyway, mistakes and all. So I made a rule for myself. Speak even if it's wrong. Don't stop. Just say it. And something magical happened. I realized that people didn't laugh at me. They understood me. They appreciated my effort. They responded. And the more I spoke, the better I became. Mistakes were no longer monsters. They became my teachers. Every time I said something wrong, I learned something new. I created a real-life English environment at home. I turned my home into an English zone. I changed my phone language to English. I labeled things in my room. My toothpaste said, toothpaste. My mirror had a sticky note. Speak English here. I started doing daily activities while talking in English. I'm cooking pasta today. Let's clean the table. This movie looks interesting. English became part of my life, not just my study time. And the more I lived with English, the less I feared it. It stopped feeling like a subject. It started feeling like a friend. I focused on real sentences, not grammar rules. Instead of studying future perfect tense, I learned useful phrases. I'm planning to, I might go to, have you ever? It's been a while since. Do you want to? I collected 3 to 5 useful phrases every week and used them in my daily talk. Over time, I built a huge library of real natural English. Not rules, not formulas, just real speech. I replaced grammar study time with speaking practice time. I used to study grammar for 30 minutes every day. After I stopped, I used that same time to practice speaking. I used a simple method. 10 minutes, mirror talk. 10 minutes shadowing a video. 10 minutes talking about my day out loud. That was it. No books, no exercises, just mouth plus voice plus confidence. And after 30 days of this, I could speak not perfectly, but confidently, naturally, fluently. What happened after that? People started noticing the difference. They said, "Your English sounds so natural now. What course are you taking?" And I smiled because the truth was I wasn't taking any course. I had just stopped doing what didn't work and started doing what actually builds fluency. I wasn't chasing perfection anymore. I was living the language. I was using it every day. And that made all the difference. Part 2, how I built my own English routine at home. No classes. After I stopped studying grammar and began speaking freely using real-life methods, I realized something very important. Consistency creates fluency. Not knowledge, not motivation, not grammar books, just small, daily repeated speaking actions over and over again. But I had a problem. I had no teacher, no class, no partner to talk with, no one correcting me. I was all alone in my learning journey. So I had to create my own English learning system. A simple but powerful daily routine that I could follow every single day from home. And I did. That routine became the foundation of my fluency. That routine gave me control, structure, discipline, and eventually confidence. Now I'm going to give you every detail of that exact routine. The same one that helped me go from silent and stuck to fluent and confident. You don't need to follow thousands of tips or try random methods. You just need to build a simple routine that touches the right parts of fluency. And I'll show you exactly how. Let's begin. Speak first, not last. Start the day in English. Time, 10 minutes. The first thing I changed was how I started my day. Most people wake up, check their phone, scroll social media, think in their native language, and then maybe try some